Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi out here in Northern California. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be working on a really fun class. This is called Luminary Glow. It was a really fun tangle to work with and I'm just really enjoying the outcome of it. Things that you're going to need for class today are the Signo Uniball pen, the gold. If you don't have that, you can use a gold jelly roll. I also have the Signo white Uniball. If you don't have that one, you could also use the jelly roll white. I just happen to love these because the pigment's really strong with these and they have a nice flow. The last Uniball that I'm going to be working with is the Uniball Eye. This is great for doing detail work later on in the piece. And then I have a great puddling pen that I'm going to be working with. This is made by Faber-Castell. This is their Pitt pen, and it's a brush pen, and it's a really, really lovely pen to work with. You should definitely check it out online and see if you can get your hands on this baby. Now, if you don't have this one, you could always use an Identa pen or the Micron brush pen. Now, the tile that I'm using today is the Sugar Honeycomb from our Tangled Yogi shop. This is a great tile to use. It's super, super smooth, so it receives color pencil really nicely and pen. And I really go out of my way to make sure that we have great tiles in the shop for you guys to use. And this is one of my all-time favorites. So, with that said, if you don't have one of the tiles with you today, go ahead and draw a hexagon on your paper and then follow along with us. It's a really fun class and I know you're going to really enjoy it. All right, let's get started. Well, all right, so we are going to get ourselves started here, and something to keep in mind for those of you who have never taken class with me before, I like to do a little bit of a centering meditation before I get started. So go ahead and take a comfortable seated position, however that works for you and side of your body today. And let your spine grow comfortably tall. Allow your eyes to close for a moment. And let your hands rest comfortably in your lap. Let your shoulders melt away from your ears, softening in your facial features, in your arms and in your hands, relaxing through the chest, the belly, and the hips, letting go through the thighs and the calves, the ankles and the feet. And allow your entire body to be at ease in this moment. Allowing your awareness to drop into your breath. Feel your breath as it rolls into the body, feeling the body expand. And as you exhale, feel the body as it softens and releases. As you inhale, feeling the belly and the chest fill with breath. And as you exhale, feel the softening and the release. Inhaling into your belly and into your chest. Exhaling and releasing. And one more time, inhaling full body breath here. Exhaling and letting go. Taking a moment to scan through the body here and notice any places where you still might be holding tension. And seeing if you can soften into those places. Relaxing through the shoulders, letting go through the belly and the hips, softening through the forehead and the eyebrows, and taking one more deep breath right here, nice inhalation, exhaling with a sigh. And gently now wiggling through your fingertips and wiggling through your toes. And when you feel even more ready, blinking the eyes open and adding vision back into your practice. And let's make some beautiful Zentangles together. Okay, so let's get started here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my mechanical pencil that I have in my hand, and we're going to start by dividing the space. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a very gentle line going all the way down the middle of the piece. And then you're going to see me turn and go to the corner and start to work my way through. I'm taking my time with this. I want to make sure that I'm going to intersect right in the middle, just like so. So go ahead and divide your space, and we'll move on to the next step. So I'm going to make a small circle in the center of my piece here. If you have a quarter or a nickel nearby, you can grab that. I happen to have a really nice handy dandy circle maker that I'm just going to lay down right here. And this is a 1-inch circle, and I'm going to make sure that it lines up nice and even here. And once I have that, I'm just going to go ahead and make my circle in the center of the piece. If you don't have any of those things, just do your best and make a circle right in the center here. So we're going to start by beginning with our string, and I'm actually just going to let go of my pencil altogether just because I was really enjoying working with the gold, and I found that if I started with the pencil too much, it took me off balance. So I'm just grabbing for my gold pen right now. So what I'm going to do is come into these spaces. You can see there's like a triangle in here, and in the middle I'm just going to make a dot right on the edge of the circle. So I'm going to do that all the way around so I have a place to land when I'm creating my piece. So you can see that I'm just going around and doing that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the very top and connect to those places. So you can see that I'm right up here, and I'm just going to make a dot to give myself a start point. And I'm very gently going to bring myself down and land. And because I'm left-handed, I'm going to turn my piece so that my hand isn't going to go over it and smear it. So I'm just working my way through. And you might notice that you're holding your breath as you do this. See if you can let your breath be nice and fluid and easy here as you make your lines. And you can see there's a little wobble in my line today, and I'm just okay with that. That's just how it is today. Coming around. Making my way through. And one more time. And dropping in. So when you phase out here, you can see that it should look a little something like this. So go ahead, go around your piece, make your lines, and we'll continue on in a moment. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to build a little bit on this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up about, I'm going to say 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to make a little dot on each one of these leaves, about 1/2 inch, and this is going to let me know where I'm going to land. So you want to just keep these things in mind as you're moving around the piece to give you a little bit of continuity as you go. So I'm just moving my way around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an arc for the piece. So you can see that I'm starting in one point, arcing out, and going to the next. Coming out, arcing, and going to the next. And let yourself really get into the groove of it, the zen of it. Just enjoy what you're doing. And then coming back to center here. So we're going to build a little bit more off of this here. We're going to come right back up to the top, and we're going to do another touchdown. So you can see that I'm just going to come right back to the center of each of these circles. I'm just going to turn the piece as I go. And then when I feel ready, I'm going to go ahead and come down to each one of those little drops. So I'll come down and I'll touch. And I'll do the same thing on the other side, coming down and touch. Making my way around. Once I've done that, I'm going to take a moment and make sure that all my lines are clean, and we're going to come back and do another arc. Finish up the ones that you're working on, and I'll see you in a minute. So we're going to do the same thing that we did early on in here, where we came up just a little bit and made a line, or rather a dot. This time I'm only going to come up about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to make a dot on either side. So you can see I'm just going up about 1/4 of an inch and making my dots. And if you need to turn your piece, go ahead and turn your piece to make it work for your hand. We'll go one more time here and here. So now we're going to do the arcing again. So we're going to come out and arc, and we'll come out and arc, out and arc, it's such a really fun tangle to do because it comes together so quickly. And it looks complex, but it's really so simple. We make things so much more difficult than they have to be, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit more interest into the piece here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of an arc right here on the edge to each one of these petals. So what it's going to look like is we're going to come in about 1/4 of the way off of this piece right here, and we're just going to fly right off the page there. I'm going to do the same thing again. So just to make sure that my hand does not get in the way, I'm going to continue to go clockwise. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there we go. So we have that really nice kind of asymmetry going on here, which I really, really like. And so what's going to happen in here is we're going to just start by doing some arcing. Take a moment to pause me here to finish up, and then we'll continue on. So we're going to go into this arc right in here, and you can see that on that outside edge I have that little asymmetrical piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently start to mimic that arc, or aura that arc. And then I'll move on to the next one here. So I'm just continuing to turn my page and aura the arc. Turning and auraing all the way around. So take a moment to finish up and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so now we're going to start to work inside of these pieces right in here. We're going to come back down and we're going to divide the space. So it's going to look a little something like this, where I drop down and make a line, and then I'm going to do 3 dots down the line. So it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll go to the next one and do the same. So I'm just going to drop down, divide the space, 1, 2, and 3. Going down to the other side, 1, 2, and 3. Turning my piece, making the line, coming up, 1, 2, and 3. Dividing the space, 1, 2, and 3. So keep on going all the way around your piece until you've completed. And here comes the last part for me. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to finish that up. We're going to start to do some auraing inside of these little arcs in here. So what that's going to look like is I'm going to come into the piece right here and very gently start to create a nice aura inside of these arcs. And you want to take your time with your aura lines. And just gently turning the space. Little slices of pizza. Actually reminds me of Trivial Pursuit, if you've ever played that game. Little pieces that go in your little circle. I'm just getting in there and putting that in. Turning the piece. Really taking your time with it as you move all the way around. Here comes the last part for me. So go ahead and finish up, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so some of you have probably seen the video Polynesian Star, and it's one of my very favorite tangles to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to come into this center block right in here. And I'm just going to grab my pencil for a second just to have it as a guide. And I've got this line that's going right down the center here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it into 3. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. Now with that done, I'm going to be able to do my Polynesian star. So I'm going to start by just making a gentle V. Once I have that gentle V, I'm going to give that V some legs. And then I'll take those legs and bring them in towards the next point. And then I'll do it again. I'm going to give that diamond some legs. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring it to the main point, just like so. So if you want, you can go around just first with your pencil and just mark into 3s and make it easy for yourself so that you have a place to land as you go around and do your V's. So you can see I'm just going around and dividing the space into 3. And turning and making it easy for myself. And now I can go ahead and finish the piece. So go around and do it. We'll do it one more time together here so you can see. Let's make it nice and big and easy for you to see. So here we go. We're going to go 1 and 2, make some legs. Then the legs are going to meet up with this point. 1 and 2. Make some legs. And then we're going to meet up at the point once again. Turning the tile, make your V, make some legs, and then go ahead and make your point. Coming around. Go ahead and finish yours up, and I'll see you in a minute. So once you've had a chance to finish those up, we're going to start to puddle with our gold pen. And this is where things get really, really fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and start to puddle in around our Polynesian star here. I'm just getting right in there. I love the metallics. The metallics are fun. You could use any jelly roll metallic if you wanted to, or any of the Signo metallics. Their silver is really quite beautiful as well. And there's lots of other pen companies that that make a beautiful metallic. So you can see that I'm just kind of coming in here and filling into that area and getting a really beautiful effect with that gold. So go around and do each one of your petals that has the Polynesian star in it, and we'll regroup back here in a minute. Okay, so we are going to start to do a little bit more building, and this is going to go right into the center. I'm already loving the way this piece is feeling. It's so fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from each spear tip to spear tip. So you're going to see me just make a little bit of an arc, and I'm going to go ahead and just start by making one arc to the next arc, and I'm thinking about how wide I'm going with those arcs as I move around the piece. I want to try to make them about the same size. It does help. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it helps. So just staying mindful of the size of the piece. So that you end up with that really fun little shape in the center here. Once you have that shape in the center, we're going to go ahead and make a little flower inside of the star that's there. So you're going to see me come into the piece here, and I'm just going to make a little dot right here in the center. And from that point, I'm going to make little bay leaf shapes all the way around. Now this may look really familiar because of bales. I always think of bales whenever I do this little flower, and for some of you who have been in my mandala classes, this will look very familiar. And there you have the center of the piece. Take your time, finish yours up, and we are going to move on. Okay, so for this particular piece, I'm going to start with our little Polynesian spear tips in here, and we're going to start with color. So I'm going to blow this up nice and close here, and for those of you who want to know what pencil I'm working with, unfortunately, I can't tell you the name, but I can tell you the number. This is PC920, and this is a Prismacolor pencil here. And I'm starting with this one, and what we're going to do is we're going to start right in the tip here. And I'm going to go very, very gently with it. Now remember, you don't have to use the same colors as me. In fact, I always encourage you guys to go off the rails and do your own thing. So if you don't have the same color that I do, you know, feel free to experiment. You can try using a similar color. You can just completely go off the rails in another direction. So I'm always about you guys trying things out. So I've got that really pretty green going through here. And once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and grab my blue. And this is one of those colors that I don't normally reach for in my kit. You know me, I've been doing that experiment where I'm reaching for colors that I haven't been using in my Prisma set. And I really enjoyed this one. This is the Cobalt Blue, and this is PC133. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the tip of the spear a little bit of depth. So I'm coming in here and very, very softly starting to add my color into the piece here. And you can see that I'm starting to work that pencil in a circular motion just to get a little bit of interest. And then once I've had a chance to get a little bit of the tip of the spear going, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of darkness right along the edge, just to give it some definition. Now once I have that, I'm going to grab for that green again, and I'm going to start to blend it out a little bit. And you can see how nicely these two colors really work together. So we're going to go all the way around the piece and do just that through all of the spears. So take your time, enjoy what you're doing, and I'll see you in a minute. So now you guys always hear me talking about carrying color, and you can see that I've had a chance to go all the way around the piece, and I'm really enjoying the way this is looking. It's really Art Deco-y and kind of fun. So we're going to take that very same color that we have going through the spear, and we're going to bring it into the center flower here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that and just very, very lightly bring that color into the center flower. And I'm using that light green color first, and then I'm going to grab for the cobalt in a second. So you want to make sure that your pencil is really nice and sharp when you're working in small places. And you can see that I'm just going to very lightly do the center, or rather the tips of the flower here, and leave the center nice and light with that kind of pale, pale green. So I'm just going to bring that in so you can see a little bit more closely here. So I'm just going around and just getting in those two areas, and I just love the drama that that brings into the center of the piece. And then once I have that, I can just go in and start to kind of soften the edges a little bit. You can see that I'm just kind of giving it a little blur out right on the edge to soften it up. And that really gives it a nice continuity that is just so pretty. So go ahead and do your center with whatever colors you're working with, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to switch colors and we're going to start to work inside of these next little petals that are right in here. And the color that I have in my hand right now, I'm using a lavender, and this is PC934. And then I've got a really beautiful violet to go with that color. So this is PC932. Now remember, we've talked about this before a couple of times in class, but I neglected to bring it up in the beginning. When you're working with a lighter color and you're using your light, your medium, and your dark, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference with a color that's so translucent like this. So it's nice to have a darker color nearby to give it a little bit of pop. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by going into these spaces where the gold is, and you can see I have my lavender in my hand, and I'm very, very softly going to lay down that color. You can see that I'm just barely touching the page with it, and I'm just getting a light saturation of color on the page. Once I've had an opportunity to do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some of that darker color in there. So you can see that I've got the light color down, and I'm just making sure that I don't have any white pieces poking through here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab for that darker violet. Now you can see that it's got a nice tip on it. And I'm just going to start with a really nice light tension first. And then once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and give it a darker tension. Now on the edge there, I can go ahead and I can soften up the edges of that darker purple by adding a little bit of pressure with that lavender. And it gives it an almost tie-dye effect, which is really beautiful. Now you can see that I'm losing a little bit of that gold, so I may come back a little bit later and add that gold back in there again. So if you feel the need, you can always go back in with a little bit of white pencil and just blend out those areas where you feel like it's a little bit messy. So you can see I've got my white pencil in hand, and I'm just going in and blurring it out just a little bit more to get that softening that I'm looking for. And that really starts to give it a soft blended feel. That's really quite lovely. So go ahead and do all of the petals on the outside with the color that you chose. So whatever color is piquing your fancy, go for it, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so let's carry on here. We're going to go into the center of the piece here. I'm going to just blow this thing right up. And what this is going to look like is we're going to come right into where these little petals are and very, very softly start to shade in with a little bit of lavender all the way around. So we're carrying it into the inside because we want the eye to have a place to land. So I'm just going to go around here and give this a little place to land in here. I'm going to softly just bring this around the edge and move it around. And then finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that violet that I was working with earlier, and not unlike what we were doing up here, we're going to give it a little bit of shading on each side. So it's just going to come in to the tips on each side. And we're going to leave a little bit of light in the center. So you can see I'm just going around and giving it a little bit on each side. Trying to keep it nice and soft. Just turning as I go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that white pencil again, and I'm going to give it a little bit of blending on the inside edge. So I'm going to come in and give this a little bit of softness right in here and right in here. So I'm really just getting in there and adding some of that white to blur out the edges. So go ahead and blur out your edges, and we'll regroup in a minute. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of depth into the corners here. You can see that I've lost a little bit of that pop when I added the white. So I'm just going to come in and just give it a little bit of pop, and you'll see that my pencil is really nice and sharp. And that's just going to help when we're working with those smaller areas to get a little bit of intensity in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and work that around and just give it a little bit of that really nice pop. And this would look so lovely with all different colors. I mean, you could really play this up with reds and oranges and all sorts of things. So remember, you don't have to use the same colors as I'm using. And you know, you can try this again and again and try it with different colors, and it'll really come out differently every time. But you can see how just using a little bit of that pop in the corners really works. So go ahead and finish that up, and we are going to come back and start with a new color. Okay, so now we want to give this a little bit of pop. This thing is a little bit dreamy for me, and I'm wanting to give it a little bit of pop and make it interesting. So I'm going to start with a new color, and the color that I'm working with right now is Scarlet Lake, and this is PC923. But I also have another color with me for a little bit of darkness. You can see that when I hold these two together, they have a little bit more depth on the second one. And this one is called Crimson Lake, and this is PC925. Now remember, you don't have to use the same colors as me. You can try things that are similar and see if they work together. So I'm going to go in with the, looks like the Scarlet Lake first. And let's go ahead and blow this up and make it nice and big for you. And I'm just going to come in with a very, very soft edge of the scarlet. And I really kind of want to get a ruby-like feeling to it, or a garnet-like feel to it. And then I'm going to push a little bit harder in towards the center, and I'm going to come out about halfway and leave a little bit of light on the outside edge. Now I'm going to take that next color, that darker color, and bring a little bit of depth into it. And you can see that that really gives it quite a lovely feel. So I'm going to go all the way around and do all of these pieces in here, and then I'm going to do the secondary pieces as well. So go ahead, do your colors, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so you can see I've had a chance to go all the way around. We're going to take some of that red and bring it into the very, very center of the piece here. So I'm going to start with the lighter red first, and I'm just going to very gently start to bring it into those little triangles that are in the center. You can see that I've got a really sharp tip on that pencil, and that's just going to give this a really nice kind of pop in the center. And once I've had a chance to get that red in there, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the darker red, and I'm really going to give that a little bit of a push in towards the center. Just to get a little bit of a spark on it. Once I've had a chance to do that, I'm going to grab that white pencil and soften up the edges. So you can see that I'm just getting in there and softening things up a little bit with that white pencil. So go ahead and do your center, and we'll come back and work on the outer edge. Okay, so many of you have heard me talk about how I'm left-handed and I don't use regular graphite. For those of you who are right-handed and feel comfortable using graphite, you can go ahead and grab a regular number 2 pencil. Otherwise, I'm going to be using my tried and true 1065 from Prisma. This mimics a graphite pencil really well, and I love it because it doesn't smudge. So I'm going to come into our little asymmetrical pieces that we have here, and I'm just going to give a little bit of shading into our little stripes that we have here. And you can see that I'm just going lightly at first and leaving a little white up towards the top. Now, once I've had a chance to go through it once, then I'll come back and I'll give it a little bit of depth. So you can see that I'm going to start to come in and give it a little bit of a pop. Which is really nice. And then on the very edge, I'll soften it up again just by giving it a little bit of white on the outside edge, just to soften it up. So we're going to go all the way around the piece and add that gray in to all of these asymmetrical pieces. Go ahead and do yours, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so this is really starting to come along here. What we're going to do next is we're going to start to work with our Signo Uniball pens. I love these pens, and this is the UM153. I like this one better than the Broad. The Broad actually is a little bit more translucent, and this one has a little bit more punch to it, so I'm partial to this pen. And what we're going to do, if you just have a Jelly Roll White, grab your Jelly Roll White, or a Posca pen if you have a Posca pen. And we're going to start to define the space around the center here. And so you can see that I've got these really nice little triangular like shapes, but they're kind of lost. And I really want to bring a focal point into the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and do a little bit of an aura. And let's see if I can get my pen to start. You know, these pens are a little bit cranky pants. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start to aura inside of these little triangles that we have. Now, something to keep in mind as you're working on these is that you want to make your triangles about the same size as you go around. So keep that in mind as you're working. And not to worry if you have a little bit of a detour or an oopsortunity, you can always go back in with that gold and try again. You can see that I'm just going in and getting into those spots where I have a little bit of a triangle. I'm putting in our little aura, and you can see that that's making the star in the center really start to come to life, which is really fun. You can see I was being pretty mindful about making them all about the same size here. So go around into those little spots and aura in your little triangles, and we'll come back and we'll do a little bit of work in the flower. Okay, I cheated a little bit. I added some dots. So if you feel the need to put some dots into your triangles, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, I'm going to start to work with the flower here. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a dot right into the main part, right into the center here. And this is going to give us a nice focal point. And then once we have that, I'm going to start to add a little bit of white around the petals here just to give them some definition because they have lost a little bit of their definition. So you can see that I'm just going around and giving those a little bit of an aura. Then coming all the way around, and you can see that that really did bring a really nice definition into the center of the piece. So go ahead and do your center flower, and we will come back and start to work inside of the spears. Okay, so here we go. We're going to work inside of the spears here, and you can see that right in here it's got a really nice dark feel to it, and that's a great place to add a highlight. So I'm going to come in and add a highlight in here. I'm going to do 1, 2. You can see that I'm just kind of dancing on the edge there. And I'm going to go all the way around the piece and do that very same thing. So you can see that I'm just going in and adding a really nice highlight into the center. So if you would like to go around your piece and do the same, go ahead, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we are going to continue to work around the spear here, and you can see that we've got these really nice little triangle shapes on the either side of the spear. So I'm just going to get my pen working, and I'm just going to do a very soft aura right in where those triangles are. So you can see that that's just adding more dimension to the piece. And just by getting in there and adding a little bit of that, it really gets it to pop off a little bit. I have a little trouble with my pen here. So I'll go to the next one and do the same thing, barely touching the page with your pen, trying to keep that ink from not wanting to flow. And you can see that that brings a lot of dimension into the piece. So go around and do those triangles, and we'll come back and start to work inside of the gemstones. Okay, so let's look at our gemstones here for a minute. You can see these really pretty kind of ruby-like gemstones in here. I'm going to come in and give this a little bit of a highlight, just a little one, and then a little dot off to the side. So you can see that I'm just going to move around the piece and give it a little highlight and a dot. And it's amazing to me how such a small thing can do so much for a little area on a Zentangle, but it really does. You can see that I'm moving my way around here and just adding in that little highlight to the piece. I'm going to go ahead and do the outside stones as well. You go ahead and do yours. Okay, so if you wanted to stop right here and be done with your piece, this would be a great place to stop. But I am feeling very daring today, and I really want to see more pop in the piece. It feels a little bit calm to me, and I'm feeling a little spicy. So I am grabbing for my black pen. I've got my Faber-Castell Pitt pen, and I love this pen. And I love to add black to pieces just to get them to really jump off the page. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to come in here and start to get a little bit more of a pop from the piece. And you're going to see that as I bring the color in, that gold is really going to pop right off the page. I'm just getting right in there and starting to add in some black into the piece. Now, once I've had a chance to go all the way around with this, we'll really see how much this is going to make a difference. So if you're feeling daring and you want to come along with me on this little trip of moving into some high drama, go ahead and grab your black puddle pen and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so you can see that this piece has really changed just by putting in some of that black. And I really love the way that it's come to life. I'm cleaning up some of my lines on the outside edge in here, any place where I'm seeing any kind of wonkiness in my line. So like here's a really great place. You can see it's a little wonky in here. So I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit just by taking my gold pen and just clarifying the line a little bit and making it a little bit more clean and clear. So you can see that I've gone around and added some of that to it. So if you need to clean up your lines around the black, go ahead and do so. And what a fun piece this is. It really is just making me really happy right now. So we're going to add just a couple of gold dots into the black here. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to have it mimic these dots in here. So I'm going to come out here into the piece and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to do a large dot, a medium dot, and then the small dot. So it'll look a little something like this. So it'll go large dot, medium dot, and then a small dot, just to give it some interest around the piece. So I'm just going to go to the side that actually has the dots, and I'm just mimicking those. And you can see that I'm turning my piece, trying to make sure that I don't smudge the gold. Make that a little bit bigger for you to see. Coming in right over here. And that just gives this a little bit more of a festive feel, which is quite lovely. So take a minute to finish yours up and we'll come back and we're going to add just a touch of black and then we'll be done. Okay, so some of you have heard me talk about this pen in the past. I've got the Uniball I pen in my hand and I love this pen because you can go back over color pencil without having any trouble at all. And in this particular case, we're actually going to go over the gold. And you can see that I'm right in here where the spears are. And I'm just going to add a little black dot into each of those little triangles right here, just to give that a little bit of interest. And I'm going to go around the piece and I'm going to do that all the way around. Now, part of the reason why I'm adding some of the black on the gold is also to give the outside a little bit of a relationship to the inside. You guys have heard me talk about how when we're carrying color, we're helping the eye to move around, and it's the same thing with the black. We want to give your eye a place to land, so it has to be nice and close on the inside as well for your eye to recognize that there's something going on there. So we're just going to come in and just finish these up, and I really love how the black adds a little bit of definition and it almost gives it a tribal feel, which you guys know is something that I really enjoy. So there you have it. We have completed our really, really fun piece here. So if you want to put your stamp on it or your chop on it, you're welcome to do so. For this particular piece, because it is so geometric, I think I'm just going to sign the back of this one. But it's a lot of fun and I really enjoyed making this one with you guys. So go ahead and sign your piece. If you enjoyed the video today, please, please, please give us a thumbs up or a nice review, and definitely subscribe to our YouTube page. The more followers we have, the more people can find us. Otherwise, it's a very big world out there in the cyber world, and we can get swallowed up right in it. So with that, if you also want to join our really fun Facebook Tangled Yogi Art community page, we have a great page with some great students and creative artists and a really nice supportive community. So please come and join us there. And if you're interested in the tile that we used today, we used the honeycomb tile from the Tangled Yogi shop. So you can always go to tangledyogi.com and go to the shop and check out our honeycomb tiles. They're a really great tile, super smooth, and really receive color pencils quite nicely. So that's it for today. And please know that I'm thinking about you and hoping that you're staying safe. Once again, this is Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi, signing off.